Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Pompano Beach, Florida, and this will be my last Wednesday coming to you live from Pompano Beach. Next week, I won't be with you at all because I'll be on the road, and then the following week, I should be back on track. So thank you very much for putting up with me while I'm doing my scrambling around the northeast coast and the southeast coast. And like I said, I hope to be back with you week after next. All right, just clearing the decks a little bit, getting my water here. All right, I think I'm good. I need to see glue. I'm not seeing glue. There we go. I think I'm running out of glue, which should never happen, right? Okay, so I will turn the camera down and we can get started. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, that will do, I think. Let's just see if we can get this cord out of the way. Okay, I seem to have some shadow, but that just seems to be unavoidable. All right, I forgot to mention something, but I already forgot what it was I forgot to mention. Don't you love it? All right, so the first stamp set, and I am going to tell you, I've only got 2 cards for you tonight. Day before yesterday, my AC stopped working. And yesterday, I heard a very strange sound while I was washing dishes. And I turned off the water, and I still heard water running. And I looked under the sink, and water was pouring out all over the place. So between the last 2 days and watching a neighbor's apartment who also had a similar situation with his AC, I've been waiting for contractors to come and then kind of overseeing them while they're here. And then today, the plumber who put in a new hot water heater, which I really needed anyway, and a new garbage disposal, which is what was leaking, he was here from 9:30 in the morning until just a few minutes after 5 o'clock. And I really tried hard to get my work done with him here. He was a very nice gentleman, but he really, really liked to talk. I know so much about him, I could tell you all about his whole life. But we won't do that, but I could. Oh no, that's not what I want. Hang on, I've got to get my iPad going here. I don't have the computer set up this week. I should, but I don't, because I was using that while he was here doing some work. Okay. I'm not even in my group yet, so I'm assuming that you're seeing me. And I apologize for all of the, oh yeah, there I am, for all of the, what am I trying to say? I have no idea. Internet problems I was having last week, and just a few minutes ago when I said I was about to go live, when I clicked on do a live video before you actually go live, it said it couldn't process my request. So I just don't know what's going on here. But all right, so I told you last week, and this is important, that the 15th of this month, which is really only a few days away. Today's the 9th or the 10th, so it's maybe 6 days away. I think it's the 9th. There will be no more host codes, so I won't even show this to you the next time I come to you live. I hope to come to you with a little bit better explanation of what the new reward system is, because I think it's okay. I think it's good. The only thing is you don't get your rewards immediately. You have to wait for them. Other than that, I think it's okay. I know for some of us it's hard to wait, right? It's hard for me to wait. All right, and there is my daily creative prompts calendar for April. Please take a look at that. It's posted in the group. And remember that wherever you see a pink box, that's an opportunity for you to win a prize. All right, what I really wanted to show you, last week I had said to you that I was going to come live the next morning, which didn't happen, or over the weekend, which also didn't happen because I was having lots of internet problems. And I just wanted to quickly follow up on last week's Facebook Live to show you some of the other things that I did and could do with this wonderful Keeping Tabs punch, and with the, I think I may have already put the stamp set away because I don't see it here, but with the stamp set that goes with the Keeping Tabs punch. I got just like so carried away and had such a good time playing with that. So I certainly made some cards last week, which I shared with you. But then I also went ahead and did some totally different things. So I might have mentioned I have this recipe box here in Florida that I picked up at a thrift shop. All right, and it is the 4x6 size recipe card. And I don't have a lot of recipes in here. I have in the back, I have a lot of things like that I cut out of magazines and whatnot. But what I did was I took a regular cardstock and I made 4x6 cards. And then using the stamps and that Keeping Tabs punch, I made tabs for every category that I thought I needed in a recipe box. So we've got breakfast, appetizers and snacks. We've got salads. And I did the green. I did it in green because the outside of the box has this pretty green color. It didn't come with any cards. It was just an empty box. And then I found these cards online, and I bought 2 packages of them. And I thought they kind of went with a color theme here. And it didn't come with any tabs. So tabs were a must, and for whatever reason, I just never even attempted to do them. So now, thanks to the Keeping Tabs punch and stamp set, I have those, and I'm quite happy about that, I have to tell you, quite happy. Okay, then, oh, no, that's not it. Never mind. I'm always talking to you about my journals, and I've had a couple of people say to me, Roberta, what exactly are your journals? Like, they just honestly didn't understand what my journals were, what they were all about. And I get that because I just mention it and then I don't show you anything. So my journals very often tend to be kind of distressed, what's the word I'm looking for? Looking vintage, okay? And I've been working on several new journals, and I want you to see how things just sort of play out together. So this is a cover for an upcoming journal, all right? And this cover, while it may look like scrapbook paper or something, take a look and see if you can figure out what this is, because I left the label like it was, at the request of the person who donated this to me. It is a panettone, which if you're not familiar with that, it's a kind of an Italian, sort of an Italian version of fruitcake, but for the most part much better than most fruitcakes I've ever had. And this one was limoncello, which is a lemony kind of a pudding or cream or whatever, and it had that mixed into it. And it's shaped kind of like a giant mound or a cupcake, and it comes in pretty paper wrapping. So this is the wrapping from the limoncello. And the woman brought me a piece, the friend, she brought me a piece of the limoncello panettone. And she said, it had the prettiest paper, and I almost threw it away, and then I thought, no, I bet Roberta could use this. So she was so right. So this box that I made my journal with is basically just a Kodiak cake, pancake, and waffle box, because I eat those quite a bit. And I just cut away everything except this, which I made the spine, and this. And I asked her, do you think I should cover this up with some lace? She said, no, leave it, and then you can tell people what it is. So I honored her wishes, and I did that. And this is one signature in this journal. It's going to be a 3-signature journal when I get done binding them. And I will want to use these tabs again just to maybe mark off some sections of the journal. All right. So again, I use scrapbook paper. I use coffee dyed paper. I use loose leaf paper. Some of it's so old it's kind of yellow on its own. Coffee dyed paper. This is some scrapbook paper, but I also turned it into a pocket. I use doilies and book pages, and I use, every time I go to say what this paper's called, I forget what it's called. Oh, good grief. It'll come to me. But anyway, it's a kind of a handmade paper that you can see through that has little bits of things in it. And then this is a pocket that I made and added onto here, and this just opens up like so and has little tags in it. And I get it, if you're not into this type of journaling, you don't understand it, but the people who I sell my journals to, they don't want blank white pages. It says it kind of hinders them from writing in it or doing artwork in it, so they just don't want it. So these are just some more baked papers, and I've got some vintage type things here. This is really nothing but a 4x6 file card, index card, and I just put a pretty image on the front. And this thing here is called a belly band, and I could go on, but I don't want to bore you because you may not be the least bit interested in this. But when I sit down and make pockets in like multiples, I call it mass making, which is what I did last week, I started using all of those, or that tab, and some of the leftover paper from these collaged images or collaged items, and started using the tab punch for that. So here we've got a pocket, but then we have a pocket within a pocket, and there are cards there. One side is black, so it could be used for a photo mat, but the other side, oh no, wrong one. I'm thinking of something else. There is one that isn't black on both sides. So this one could be like a double photo mat, and they slide in pretty easily. Of course, when I say that, then they won't work, right? But they do. And then this one is also black with black on the other side, and it's just another pocket that could be sewn into the inside of a journal. All right, and then this was another pocket that I made using the Thoughtful Pockets bundle that I demonstrated last week. So I made a bunch of these to go in a future journal. All right, then I use envelopes. I use junk mail. So I save all my junk mail envelopes. Actually, I probably don't save them all because I get so many, I don't know that I could possibly use them all. I love it when I get one that has a big window, and then I'll put a card in there that shows a pretty picture or might have a quote in it. And so as you can see though, I used the tab punch again. So you see this one has a quote in it. The things you are passionate about are not random, they are your calling. And on the other side, it just has some pretty paper. So the person who buys the journal that this is in would have the option of which side they wanted showing. So you kind of get the gist of it, okay? And I love making these. And I've made them sitting out by the pool. I get some strange looks sometimes, but that's all okay. It's all good. I don't care. I can tolerate the strange looks. One more thing, I have a notebook that I call my brain dump or notes. And I have tabs, and I used one of the punches, and what I did was I typed the word in, ran a page of words off on my computer, Microsoft Word document, that's all it was, made sure to leave enough space, and then I stamped and then punched, and the words landed right in the right place. Like, don't even ask me how I did that, but I did, and without fail. So these are just all of the different volunteer work, organizations that I belong to and whatnot, and when I run to a meeting, I grab this and just take it with me so that I can take some notes. So a couple of cards that you didn't get to see last week. This one is a pocket card. It has no, it doesn't open, but, and I didn't put it here yet, there should be a piece of white paper on the back so that you could write on that if you wanted to. But when you open this up, it's right here. So here's a thank you card. Here's that $10 Starbucks card that you saw so much last week. I'm going to take that out of there now and get it back in my pocket because I will forget to take it with me if I go to Starbucks. Here's another one where I use the punch, the stamps and the punches just to make a little design. These are from a now retired stamp set. I want to say Regency Park, but I know that's not right, but something park. And I use some of the in color paper or the color family paper and a little strip on the bottom. It's done in Azure. And there you go, there's that, and these are the pockets. And I did take pictures of all of these so that I could put them online for you to see, and I thought I posted them. This is like the story of my life, folks. I thought I posted them, but I never did, but I did take the pictures, so I will post them. Here, I cut one of the tabs in half so that it's not folded over, and I just put them in rows, one on top of each other. Starting on the bottom row, I learned that I had to start on the bottom row so that I could keep putting them on top and in the end there. And I just thought that was so pretty. And then I took the other half, which I didn't use, and used it for a little decorative border on the bottom. So this is what I meant when I wanted to tell you that I think these this stamp set and this punch are so versatile. So this one just has a little card, and this is a card that you would put a glue dot on, and then here you put your gift card right in here. So the gift card's on the front, which is a little unusual because usually it's on the inside, although until they pull it up and out they may not know it's a gift card. And then there's the sentiment on the inside. This is the card that I did make in front of you, but it didn't have a belly band on it yet, so I added a belly band. I just used some ribbon and I used that tab, and that's all I used. Sometimes you put a sentiment on the belly band, but I didn't. And then in this case, the gift card would be on the inside. All right, and then I feel like there were a few more that I made, but I'm not seeing them here, so who knows where they ended up. I know that a couple of them already got mailed off, but I did take pictures of them first, so you will get to see them. All right, so there's that. So let's get started on today. So what have we got? We've got 2 cards, but they're a little bit involved, which is why I figured 2 is probably enough. I have my bathroom sink is full of dirty dishes because I couldn't put them in the kitchen sink because he was working in the kitchen. So, and I haven't had any chance yet to do anything with those. So I really need to get cleaning He did a good job of cleaning up after himself, don't get me wrong, but it just, the floor needs a good mopping. So the stamp set that I'm using here is, let me see if I can pull it out, here we go, is Cake Celebrations. And when I opened this up, I realized that I had not used this stamp set once. Not even once. Now I thought this was retiring, but I did not see it on the list, so I think it is carrying over, and if I'm wrong about that, I'll let you know. And then I also used the Eyelet 3D embossing folder, definitely one of my favorites, and that is also carrying over. And then I used the Cake Celebration dies, which are really cool. Alright, so I really enjoyed playing with this stamp set today, a whole lot. And for some reason I was in the mood for red, and when I went and looked in my bin of Designer Series paper and cardstock, I realized that I have not used red at all since I've been here. So I've been here since January, second week in January, and I have not made a single card using red. And I could tell because there were so many sheets of red left in the package. So I knew I had not been there. I had not used it. Oh, and I also used, tell me I brought it, yes I did. I used this punch, which is called the Happy Labels Pick-a-Punch. And here's the information on that, should you want to take a screenshot. All right, and it is, we've had these punches before. They're very cool because you can slip in a 1-inch piece of paper to get either one of these, this scallop top or this kind of postage stamp top, or you can slip in a 3/4 inch paper, and I think also a 1/2 inch paper. So that's why they have these different levels here that sort of look like steps, and then you can choose which top you want as well. So I used that. I used the I used the scalloped one, but I did one of these as well just so you could kind of see what it looks like done. Okay, so it does sort of look like a postage stamp, or even, maybe even a ticket of some kind, I don't know. So I wanted to do red because I hadn't done red, and then I thought I'm going to do red and pink. Oh, hang on, because, oh, I don't hope I don't have to scramble. No, here it is. I used the red ink pad for both of the cards today. So I used the red and the pink for the main colors, and then Granny Apple Green and Daffodil Delight, I think. Only at the moment, what I use the Daffodil Delight for, it just is not coming to me. Hard to imagine, right? Hard to imagine. I'm not sure. Not at all sure what I did with that, why I had that out, but I'm sure there's a reason. It'll come to me eventually. All right, so that's not the one we're using. I think I've got my bins mixed up. That's my problem. Okay. I'm going to take this one out so I can see what the sentiments are and see if I somehow made a mistake. So I've got the one that says, okay, birthday and happy. And then there should be another one. Oh, there is. Here it is. Celebrate. Okay, so birthday, happy birthday and celebrate we're using. I'm not using that, I don't think, but I might be. We're using these two stamps here. We're using this stamp, which is the cake pedestal. And, oh, now I know what the L is for. And we're using the candle stamp and these little asterisk, or they might just be like part of the candle, the flame sort of looking out. Hadn't quite decided what that was, but I guess I can make it whatever I want it to be. The flowers I'm using, and those sentiments. I think that's all. I think that's it. It's like, who remembers what they did hours ago, right? Sometimes I don't remember what I did minutes ago. Now, you have a choice when using this stamp set of whether or not you want to use the stamps and the dies combined, just the dies, or just the stamps. So you can almost do any of those different things, because again, it's very versatile, and that's what I really like and what I look for in a stamp set, is for it to be versatile. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I did with the flowers and the leaves. So basically I just got a piece of paper, white paper, that was as wide as this, and I just inked up first one side with the red, and then I inked up this side with the Granny Apple Green, and I stamped it 3 or 4 times, and then I got out the dies and I made myself a bunch of each. Okay, so that's what I did with that, and I did that off camera because that's really just kind of too tedious to ask you to watch. So I've got those here. Don't know exactly which ones I'm using where yet. I did some in each color just to be sure that I would have enough. I am going to get out my tweezers before I forget because I think I'm going to need those as well. All right. Hi, Amy. Can someone tell me if I'm frozen on your end? Because on my end, I am, and that's because my friend whose name begins with an S was interfering again. I'd have a talk with him, but he really doesn't listen. Well, it's hard for me to tell because I look frozen on my iPad, but I know that doesn't mean anything, but then again, maybe it does, because if you were watching on a computer, wouldn't it be frozen to you too? I just don't know. All right, so let's get going here. So I have a card base, typical size card base, 8.5 this way by 5.5 this way, scored at 4 1/4. I've got a liner for there, and it's a smaller liner because, to tell you the truth, I had this piece of paper and I didn't want to waste it, so it's a smaller liner. This is, and I always say this wrong, but this is like, instead of being 4 by 5, it's like 3 7/8 by 4 7/8 or something like that. So I've just a little bit narrower border than I sometimes go for. And then this one is really narrow. So you're really only seeing just a pop of the black, and that's kind of what I wanted. That was what I was going for real. Sometimes, you know, these things happen because they're just accidents, whether happy accidents or not. Hey Siri, cancel. Well, then stop talking to me. I just don't get it. If anybody has a solution for this problem, let me know, because all of a sudden he's telling me he can't do my request, and there was no request. And then the next thing I know, I tell him to cancel, and he tells me there's nothing to cancel. I just don't understand it. And for whatever reason, it seems like it's happening more here in Florida than it does in New York. And I know that doesn't make any sense at all, but it just seems that way. I have no solution to this problem at all. None. Sometimes I'd like to hurt him, but the problem is, as you all well know, he's very expensive, so I don't want to hurt him. Because I don't think I can hurt him without hurting my computers and my phones and my iPads and all that good stuff. And he does keep me company when I'm driving alone. He tells me stories and he tells me jokes, and I ask him questions and he tells me he can't answer them, and then I yell at him, and it's quite entertaining. Keeps me awake for sure. Okay, and then, sorry, I got glue on my hands. I'm all sticky. All right, and I love this ID. iLit 3D embossing folder. Oh my gosh. I really am quite tired. I didn't sleep the last 2 or 3 nights. And then this morning I had to get up really early because they said that he might be here at 9. And then we had, the fire alarm went off a little bit before 9 o'clock. And, you know, coming from a firefighter family, when the fire alarm goes off, it doesn't matter whether you think it's real or not, you get up and you get the heck out. So we got out. Very few people in my building went out, but I went out and a couple of my neighbors did. And then we're seeing what looks like smoke, like down near the garbage room. So I'm thinking, well, you know, dumpster fire, it happens, it's possible, right? Well, it wasn't smoke, it was dust, because they're doing some surface work on the stucco of the building and some concrete restoration work. And so the guy was kicking up dust, and someone had propped the door open, and as a result, the smoke detector went off. And this was like, you know, the main one that calls the fire department and everything. So they came, and then because they're the fire department and they were here, it wasn't like the manager could just tell us that it was okay to go back into the building. The fire department had to tell us it was okay to go back in the building. And even though you told them it was dust, they really do have to check for themselves to be sure, because if they just listen to you when you say it's just dust, and then if you all burn up, you know, 20 minutes later, that's kind of their fault, or they would think it was anyway. So we had that going on here. it's just a very interesting morning. Okay, so I used the, yep, you know those things. I used the Spotlight on Nature, which is, I think, you know, I don't think it's retiring. I don't think it's on the last chance list. But again, I'll have to keep checking those things out. I've been trying to take notes like crazy about what is and what isn't, because I thought someone said these dies were going away, and sometimes a stamp set gets retired but the dies don't, or vice versa. I love these dies, so I used the biggest one on this side and the second from the biggest one, and then there are similar ones on the other side in slightly different sizes, which is just great. So that's what I used for that. So I did red for the background, and then I did white for the center. Okay, and I'm trying to remember. Isn't it crazy how I just don't remember things? Okay, now I remember. So now this is where I decided, like I said, that I'm mostly going to use the stamps and not use the dies quite so much. So what we want to do, and I have to tell you, I have not played with this particular set a lot, just have not, and we'll see what happens, because I was a little confused about how the cake pieces worked, and then I think I figured it out, which doesn't mean I'll do it well, I just think I figured it out. Okay, so now we've got the cake plate, the cake stand, whatever you like to call it, and there's a die, so I could cut this out of black paper or silver paper or whatever color I chose, but I'm just using the die for today, or the ink for today, the stamp. All right, so I'm going to stamp that. Okay, and there's our cake plate. Done with that now. And then I wanted the cake to be like a combination of red and pink icing. And I really had to stare at some examples of how people use this. So because you really couldn't put pink over the top of red and have it show in the set, they just look like rectangles, but basically they're supposed to be frosting. So what I'm doing is I'm inking that up good. I did clean all these off, but they're still bubbling up a little bit on me. All right, and I'm going to try to get that right on top of the cake plate, and if I have to go over a little bit, that's really okay, because it won't really show up on the black anyway. Okay, and actually, you know, that's a little mottled, and I almost don't mind it because it kind of looks like frosting, so I'm great with that. So we've got that one, and in a minute we'll use the other one, at least I think I will. And then there is one that just kind of looks kind of, I don't know, like a little messy. I don't know how else to put it. And that's supposed to be, oh no, but not pink. That's supposed to be your next layer of frosting. So we're going to get out the real red for the next layer of frosting. And I think I just put my thumb in it a little bit. All right, so we're going to ink up in the real red. And then we're going to go ahead and cover some of what I just did, because that's okay, and it certainly makes sure that I don't goof and have a space in the middle, which I don't want to do. So there, so now we've got some frosting on the cake there. And then we're going to go back to the small pink, and the small pink represents the next layer on the cake. So this is like a two-layer cake. So this is where we'll get out the pink again. And again, if we go over the red a little bit in the pink, that's okay. Too. I'm concerned that it's going to get too tall for this circle. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that to make sure that doesn't happen. But if it does, well, I don't know if it does, if it's okay or not. I'm thinking it really isn't okay. Only because if we were using dies, it would be okay, because then it would be okay for the dies to sort of hang over a bit. But since we're not using dies, I'm not so sure. So I'm feeling like I should have brought that red lower down there. That's what I'm thinking I should have done, just to make the whole thing a little bit lower, because there's candles that are going to go on here as well, right? So let's see, I'm going to take these that I'm not using anymore, put them on one block, and now take this one and put it on another block. So this one's like almost the same as the other one, but just smaller. And I think I'm going to come down just a tad lower. Okay, so there you go. So it's kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it abstract looking, but it doesn't necessarily look exactly like frosting, but whatever it looks like, I like it. So that's all that matters, right? I like it. I'm just going to clean these off. Remember, I've mentioned before that if you clean off stamps with red on them as quickly as you can, it reduces the amount of staining. It certainly doesn't keep it from happening altogether, but it helps. Okay. Anything that has red dye in it, so red, pink, some purples and whatnot. If it's a blue purple, not so much. If it's a red purple, yes. Oh, I have to leave the red out because my candles are going to be red. Okay, I'll put that there and pray I don't lose it. So my candles are going to be red. I suppose I could have picked a different color, but you know what? This is going to work out because now I can have my candles go lower down and it won't be so visible. When it dries, it'll lighten up a little bit, so that's good. I think I'm just going to keep my chamois on my lap so I don't have to keep reaching for it. That seems like a good idea. Okay, and now I've got the flames. And let me tell you, these are some tiny stamps. The plumber was looking over my shoulder at one point because I was working at the kitchen counter doing my die cutting. And he said, "What are you doing with all those things? They're really small." I said, "They are really small. They really are small. But it's okay." He's like, "Okay." I can't really tell if this stamp has an up and a down or not. Honest, I can't. So this is where the Daffodil Delight comes in. And this is where, am I in camera so you can see what I'm doing? Sort of. Let me get this up a little bit. And then I have to get my head in here a little bit. And there's lots of room for error. Let's see. Oh my gosh, that is not bad at all. I mean, it's a little cockeyed, but that's okay. I can live with it. So then, you know, what I was thinking was these two other little stamps. I was thinking that they would be something that would go, you know, like inside the card is just a little happiness. But they could also be yellow and be around though, but I think they're too big for that. I don't know. Seems a little too big for that. I don't know that I'm going to do that. Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to do that. All right, so what else do I have out here? So now I have the greetings. Oh yeah, there's an issue. So originally I was going to make this card, well I think I did make a card just like this using the deckled circles, and they were much bigger. So this is much smaller obviously. And where did my red piece go? Have I lost it already? Yeah, here we go. So we're going to have to work out something different for the sentiment, because in the one that I made quite a while ago when the deckled circles first came out, my sentiment went up here. And of course it was a different birthday cake set too, so it might not have been so big. So now I have to put my celebrate someplace else. Now if, I was going to put the celebrate on front and the happy birthday inside, but if, maybe, let's just see. If I put birthday here and happy here, that might work. The only possible tragedy that could happen there is if I goof up that stamping, then my whole cake is ruined. Yeah, that just scares me. I have to tell you, it scares me. So another possibility would be, let me just see, we're going to play with this a little bit, and this is good for you to kind of hear my process so you see what I go through when I'm trying to make these monumental decisions. All right, so this is just, we'll call this a scrap for now because I'm not really using it for anything. So I'm going to stamp happy. Well, I stamped it upside down, but luckily, luckily it doesn't matter. Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to, except that I just put my thumb on it, so I'm going to flip it over on this side to stamp birthday. And I'm not sure if I have enough room. Let's see. Okay, I don't like the way that came out. The top of the D is barely showing. And I've got ink in places where there shouldn't be any ink. So let me get out a chamois. I have this whole pile of little pieces of white, basic white paper on my right, and today I decided today was the day to put them away. I think I can still reach some of them. Oh, yes I can. Okay. So happy looks fine to me. Let's do birthday again. Let's just tear that and get rid of that. See, every time you get the urge to clean, you should really just ignore it. Don't anybody tell their husbands I said that. Or their mothers for that matter. Okay, that looks good. I really like this font. It's really cute. Alright, so I have happy and birthday, and the other alternative to being afraid to ruin that would be to get my snips and sort of fussy cut these. And I don't really mean fussy cut them in the way that you're thinking. It's basically just means going around and sort of mimicking the outline shape. Not actually cutting out every single letter or even necessarily going up into every high point, but just sort of working your way around. And remember, you don't turn the scissors so much as you turn the paper. And you just keep moving it. And this bottom part will really be almost straight. I'm just going to give it a little wave to it. And then around the top of the H. And then around that and back down, and you've got happy. And now, if I had goofed that up, I could just do it again and nothing terrible would happen. Alright, so same thing here, just go up and around. I'm not trying to be too fussy, in spite of the word fussy cutting. I'm just trying to narrow it down, make it smaller, and give it a little bit of interest, that's all. Because it's getting in my way, and then just try to continue here. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to do this for like 10 words at once or something. But typically our sentiments are fairly short. So there we go, that was not torturous for me. I hope it wouldn't be torturous for you. And now I can get that on here. And let's get it in the right order, and let's get it right side up. And then, oh, but wait a minute. Glad I thought of this. So then I have these, which were not meant to be stamped on because I did want the card to have some dimension. I'm not going to use this at this point because it's too short, but I wanted you to see this. So this was something that you would stick in the cake, and you would color these in. Just very quickly color them with, the tips of your markers and color them different colors. But on this card, it's really not going to work, I don't think. All right, so we've got that. But I also wanted to have some flowers on the cake, and at this point, I don't know how that's going to work out with the sentiment. Another thought would be to put the sentiment on a strip across here. Then in which case I might just put celebrate on the front. I honestly don't know. And I am going to use glue, even though I said something about dimension, just because there's enough dimension on them, just because they're die cut and everything else is stamped. So I don't want them popping up too high. So let's just see if I can put a couple of these on here. And actually there are small ones, so maybe I should stay away from the big one and go for medium and small. Actually don't even think I'm going to need my tweezers. There, and in the world of fancy parties, this could really be edible flowers. There are edible flowers, and sometimes they get put in dishes, and that's kind of fun. All right, let's see. Lift that up a little bit. Should have thought of that first, but I didn't. And just get that under there. And then do I have a red medium, or do I only have red large? Let's see. Doesn't it figure? Where is that? That is the medium. This is the large. Okay, so maybe I could put add medium right there, kind of overlapping a little bit. And then maybe, they are a little hard to pick up, I'll say that. Let's see if we can put a little glue on the front of this and attach this small pink one to that, and then put some glue on the back. And get that over here. And then the question would be, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I like that. I don't think I like that. So let's go ahead and get this mounted on this circle. And that way I can see what that looks like. And then that's my inside. Let's see if I can find another scrap that I can reach without causing a major problem. Oh wait a minute. Let's just use this because that's kind of what I had in mind anyway. So we would just lose like a piece of the cake stand, and I don't think that would be too terribly upsetting to anyone. It wouldn't upset me a whole lot. Or, no, never mind, or we could just do it down here. Maybe that is what I had in mind in the first place. Who knows? That's my big statement. Who knows what I had in mind? Sometimes I get a chance to make a whole sample beforehand, and this time I just didn't. Okay, so we're going to put this further up, closer to the top. We're going to try to make it straight so it doesn't look like a melting, sagging cake. There we go. And then we'll just re-stamp, but believe me, I'm saving this, okay, because I can use that another day for sure, and I can use those another day. Oh, hang on, look, because I have an idea. So now I want to, but happy and birthday still had to be, no, I take it back. Now we're going to do celebrate on here. That's what we're going to do. And save happy and birthday for inside. Do you see how this is a process, though? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are people who could make all of these decisions faster than I do. In fact, I'm sure there are, but I just feel like I need to talk it out loud to decide what I'm going to do. And I'll be honest with you, I'd be talking, I think I've said this before, I'd be talking whether you were here or not. Because I have to say to myself, I have to hear the ideas. I know, it's a little strange. It is. It's a little strange. But I have to hear the ideas, like in my own head. And then this one was going to go on top of this one, and that would go there so that we didn't have white on top of white. Okay, so glue gives you some wiggle room. And sometimes it wiggles more than you want it to. But it's better than getting totally stuck and then there's nothing you can do about it but rip it or something. Okay. Looks good. So now the celebrate ends up on the outside just because it's easier to manage, just one word on the outside. I am really liking that. I am really, really liking that. Okay, so now, because there's really no need to glue happy and birthday in there. I had a thought with these, but I think it would be too much, so I'm going to put those away for another time. And then I'm going to get happy birthday again. Some of these fonts, the H that way or the Y that way look very similar. And I think that's why I stamped it upside down earlier, but it didn't matter. Okay, where's birthday? Here we go. So let's do that. In the black again, let's get that out of the way so it's not going to get in any ink. And let's see if I can do this straight. Actually, I think what I did before was I stamped the birthday first. I tried putting them on one block together, thinking I could stamp them and they'd be already right. Oh no, we got goop on that. No, no, no. We gotta clean that off. Then my favorite phrase that I say to myself when I catch something like that is, that could have been bad. That could have been bad. Okay, it looks like handwriting with a real fine tip felt pen, doesn't it? Like one of those micron pens that I really like using. All right, so there's birthday, and I'm going to sort of try to fit happy in above it, maybe off to one side a little bit. I don't know if it matters which side, just so that I can get it lower down and not have like a big space, like double spacing between it. Okay, I am happy with that. I am. Okay, and now we could actually use these. So let's just, where'd the glue go? Here we go. Let's get a little glue on the back of that. And let's get that on there, and that way I can use the big ones that were too big to use on the front. All right, we'll let that dry for a second. And then, well, all right, we'll use this one this way. And we'll put that down here in this corner. Now again, you could stamp this too, but as long as we've got these, we might as well use them, right? And then I'll take another big one, so we won't use that one. I think, you know, the plumber just saw me handling all these things. It's just too fiddly, you know. And of course I'm guessing he didn't use the word fiddly, not even in his head, but you know, most men have bigger hands than I have, and so they probably just thought, like, I couldn't even pick that up. What is she doing? But he seemed kind of interested. It was cute. We'll angle this one this way, I think. All right, and there we go. I think I'm going to need the black one for the next one and the red for the next one. So we'll leave those out. And then let's get this put on the inside, and I am really liking that card, and I'm happy I went with the red. I've been using, you know, a lot of the in colors and Lost Lagoon. I just love Lost Lagoon and Boho Blue, so I've been using lots of those like bluish and greenish colors. And I think I've just been ignoring red. I've used a little pink, but I've been ignoring poor red. Because, you know, after Christmas, it's like, okay, enough with the red. But I think Christmas is far enough away now that I can start using red again. I really wanted Happy Parade, and I apparently didn't bring any, or if I did, I didn't find it yet. And since I'm going home next week, I guess I'm not going to. All right, there we go. That is so pretty. I hope you think so too. I think so, so there you go. All right, we'll put that over here, and then the next stamp set, let's put that all the way, the birthday cake thing, put that away. And then the next stamp set is, she says, I don't know, what is it? Well, this is a fun one. So again, that's why I said we were celebrating today. So that one, Cake Celebration, does have, and I guess I really should have pointed this out, it has anniversary and wedding, so think about that, you know what I mean? You could make anniversary cakes, wedding cakes, whatever. I have not decided what I think this blob is. If you have any idea, I couldn't even find where anybody else used that blob on a card. I'm just not sure what it is. I could call Stampin' Up! And ask them, but sometimes I'm embarrassed to do that because then the answer is so obvious that I just feel like a little dodo for even asking. All right, so the next set that we are using is also a celebratory set, but the reason I really wanted to point this one out to you today is that this one, Filled with Fun, was in the annual catalog, and it is retiring. It is going away, okay? So, yeah, it is going away. Alrighty. So it's got a lot of fun things. It's got the wagon, you know, which would be great for kids' cards, and I think you could do other things, like if you had stamp sets with little teddy bears on them or animals on them, you could fill the wagon with animals or whatnot. I just think there's a lot that you could do with this. It's got You Make My Heart Bloom, Celebrating Someone Special, and Sending Loads of Happiness. It actually has not a single happy birthday sentiment in it, which is fine, you know, because we've all got happy birthday sentiments in one set or another. So there's no reason to necessarily have one for this. But I just thought it was interesting that, you know, it's kind of a celebratory set, but we're not talking birthdays, so and that's okay. All right, so aside from the stamp set, in this set we have, sorry, I'm having a small avalanche over on the left here, just a small one. But it reminds me of something else I wanted to show you. Let's see if I remember it again in 10 or 15 minutes. All right, so we're using that set. I also used the Dashing Designs 3D folder, and after I used it I thought, you know, that one might be retiring too, but I look seeing it, so I just don't know. But I used that just as an element on the front, and I used Crumb Cake as the main color because I was using red, and I think red and Crumb Cake look really well together. I also used the Textured Notes dies. These are new. I believe they're only online exclusive, and I love these. And I used the, you know, I had this big decision-making process about this too. Yeah, I did. So what happened initially, and I didn't really correct it, was that I wanted to put it on this. It's kind of a fun fold, and I realized that if I used the second die up from this, it would hang over the edge. So instead, I just took this and measured it out, took some of the Color Family neutral paper, DSP, and did it that way, and then a few minutes later I realized that was going to hang over the edge anyway. So what I decided was that there was absolutely no reason why I couldn't just cut this off, either here or here. That would be fine. I think here would be better. So that's what I decided, which means I could have used the other die after all, but by that time I'd already kind of made up my mind, and that was that, right? Because once you make up your mind, it's made up. So this is a fun fold of sorts. Again, it's not terribly fun, but it's a fun fold, and basically this just becomes the front of the card. All right, and then we have a liner for the card, and then the reason I used the embossing folder was to have just a little extra element of interest. So why don't we take care of that first and just get that out of the way. And I think, well, never mind. We'll get to that. Bone folder. Sometimes when you cut things on the paper trimmer, you get kind of a little line where the paper goes into the little gully, as I call it, or whatever you want to call it, on the trimmer. So all you have to do is take your bone folder and go over that, and it all becomes fine. Something just fell on the floor, and I think it's something important. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'll have to fish for it in a few minutes. All right, so we'll get this put on there. Oh, it's on my lap. So, there you go. Alrighty. I haven't even eaten dinner yet tonight, and I haven't cooked dinner yet, even though I've been trying for 3 days now. And both last night and the night before, I went to Whole Foods because I had something else to get there, and I just got dinner from their Whole Foods bar. I like the Indian food that they have there, so one night I got a spiced fish and some curried rice and steamed vegetables, And last night I got the chicken tiki marsala, which does come in a cream sauce, so I probably paid a price for that, but I'll get over it. And then I got a different kind of vegetables, not steamed vegetables, something different, stir-fried, I think. All right, so rather than stamping on this, we're just using this to build our scene, okay? So what we have is I stamped and then die cut the wagon. And then I stamped and die cut, actually I didn't stamp, I just die cut this section, which is like the railings on the wagon that I'm gonna overlap a little bit. And then I die cut these two black circles, which are meant to be the wheels of the wagon. Oh my gosh, like my fingers just are not working here tonight. Wheels, all right, we'll get them in the right place when we put it together. And then there are even little hubcaps. Are they not cute? And then the center could be colored in either with a metallic marker or just any color that makes you happy. And then this is the handle on the wagon. So we have to assume that that's on a pivot, you know, on a hinge of some kind. And then this, and this is really important to know, so when I first cut this stamp, and the same thing happened with the rustic basket crate, I think it was, there's a little section on the bottom that's left there, and I'm like, oh, I have to trim this, and then I stop myself really quick, because no, it's there on purpose, because it's like a glue tab, so that you don't have to bury too much of your image. All right, so that's very cool. And these are the kind of things that the people who work for Stampin' Up! Think of, like things that, I don't know, I wouldn't think of them until it was too late. I'd think of them after we made the whole set and put it out and people said, this isn't working. Then I'd be like, oh yeah, you know what we could have done? Yeah. All right, so since we're not stamping on this, and I'm trying to remind myself that that's really true, that we're not, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this onto this. And then I'm trying to figure out where my stamps are, because I thought I put all of my stamps for both cards on blocks, but all I see in front of me is the stamps from the previous card. So I don't know what I did with them. They're either sitting on the dining room table or I just never actually got them onto blocks. Either one of those things is entirely possible. All right, let's see. I mean, like your typical teacher, right? I've always got rubber bands on my wrists. I don't even remember what the other one's from. Okay, so, no, I didn't, well, yes I did, wait a minute. So I put these in here just to show you what they were. And then here's the sentiment, which is here. And I don't think there was anything else that I was stamping, so that's why they're not all on blocks. Okay, look at that. It makes sense. Who knew? So let's see, what's the best way to do this? So I'm thinking, this is like the same dilemma with the other one. Am I going to be able to get this sentiment, and I decided to use Sending Loads of Happiness. Am I going to be able to get that on there and still have to do something different? And the answer is I'm not sure yet, so I guess we'll wait and see. All right, now this we can assemble if we put the glue down low and leave a space on the top where we won't put any glue. And then I'm also going to put some glue very close to the little wheel wells there, because I think those wheels are really meant to kind of tuck up under here, I think. Not all the way, but a little bit. And then I'm just going to leave some of the top open with no glue on it. And then I'm wondering if I can get these the black part of the wheel up in there before I glue the rest down. And I think I can. I'm trying to think though, like when my kids had those wagons, were the wheels hidden or did you really see the whole wheel? I feel like you actually saw the whole wheel, no? I'm not sure. I'm sure there's nobody sitting there analyzing this whole thing either. I'm going to put this over to one side a little bit so we have a little more room for the handle. Okay, so let's do that. And then this I can put, you know, as far down as I want, really. It's just kind of there for interest. So I'm not going to do that yet. And I'm not going to do the handle yet. Well, maybe I should because my glue is still wet and I can stick it under there. Alright. It might have been helpful if I put some glue on the handle itself though, right? That might have been a good idea. Okay, done. And then we'll put a little dot of glue in the center of each wheel, or the hubcap, or whatever you call it on a wagon. I don't know. Do wagons have hubcaps on their wheels? My mother-in-law put it at her house, which turned out to be a good thing, because when at the age of 70-something she decided to try riding a bike for the first time in almost 70 years, whatever, and fell off and broke her kneecap, and was very embarrassed and didn't want to go to the hospital and didn't want to call an ambulance, which my kids wanted to do even though they were little. My son went back home to Grandma's house, got the red wagon, brought it back, put Grandma in the red wagon, and they pulled her home, and then they called a relative who yelled at her and made her call 911. Yeah, so little red wagons come in handy is what I'm trying to tell you. Don't get rid of them just because you don't have kids anymore. You never know when you might need a little red wagon. Alright, so now I've got my blends. I did not get those out ahead of time, which I probably should have. So we're going to need some yellow for the candles. And what color goes with red besides red? Because the bows could be red, maybe. And maybe the cake should be not red. So now I think we'll go back to my... well, maybe, I don't know about Night of Navy. I think I'd be leaning more towards boho blue again. Right, there's such a thing as blue icing, right? That's balmy blue. Maybe balmy blue. Alright, maybe balmy blue. And then the candles can just be black, and maybe the bows could be yellow too. I mean, lots of things go with, oh I know, maybe Night of Navy and balmy blue for the bows. Oh, but then that banner should probably be red, right? Seems like a banner should be red. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the way my brain works, so we're going with it. Alright, so the banner is going to be red. Sorry, my dog just barked and it startled me. I don't know why it should. They've started allowing larger dogs here, and I have to tell you, the larger dogs barking does not bother me anywhere near as much as the little dogs do. I don't, maybe because I'm not used to little dogs, you know, like I have only big dogs in my life, so maybe that's why. Little dogs' barks startle me, and big dogs don't, which really makes no sense. Because the big dogs are the ones that you could potentially be nervous about, if you were nervous about dogs. Alright, so I use the light real red. There's really not a whole lot of shading to be done here, but we'll just do a little near the pole, and maybe down here a little bit. Okay, and that will lighten up too. And then let's get the candles out of the way, so we'll do the flame and some Daffodil Delight. And then we'll do the cake. So this striping here makes me think of those ladyfinger cakes, you know, where you put frosting on it and then stick ladyfingers. Remember those little sweet cookies, little kind of round, oval shaped cookies? I don't know if they're even still around anymore, are they? I have no clue. No clue at all. And they're not blue, so they're kind of a very pale yellowish color. So I don't know what these are, but they're going to be blue. And that's all there is to it. Now, if you are someone who attends or is thinking of attending my Coffee and a Card in-person class on the second Tuesday of every month in Newark, New York, and you've been watching some of these videos, as I know some of you have, just, you know, in the time that I've been here, let me know. I've already gotten 2 requests for cards based on videos that I've done while I was here in Florida. So if you've seen any, please let me know if there's any that you'd like to duplicate. And while I may not always be able to duplicate like the DSP or every detail because I may not have something that I need, but I could certainly make something very similar. So let me know. All right, so then I think I'm going to make the two smaller bows Balmy Blue also. I was thinking of putting, well, no, you know what? I'm going to do the one in the middle. So Balmy Blue on the two sides. I'm just kind of putting those in there to remind me. And then the ribbon Balmy Blue, and then some dark Balmy Blue highlights, and then the middle bow in Night of Navy. That will work for me. In the dark Balmy Blue, not the bow, the ribbon in the dark Balmy Blue. And this smaller bow, you see the ribbon up at the top and bottom. Okay, and maybe just some, again, some dark, like on the inside pieces here, and a little bit here where the artist had given us those lines, and in the sections that would be on the inside of the bow. Do that. And then light Night of Navy for the bow. Now, I just realized that those bows and ribbons are sitting on something, aren't they? They're on a box. So what color should the boxes be? I don't want to really take away from the bows. So my answer is I'm just not sure. And I think this is a stripe on the paper and not necessarily a ribbon. But either way, I'll color it dark Night of Navy just to be on the safe side. And then down here in this little corner section, which seems to be another stripe, I also forgot to take the dark Balmy Blue, yes, and do the icing over here in dark Balmy Blue. And I'm going to do each one twice because it does get darker each time you go over it, and it dries lighter. So if you want, and these little scallops, whatever they're supposed to be, I'm going to make them dark too. And then I'll go back up to the top and do it all again. You could use your watercolor pencils and a blender pen for this. You could, if you wanted to, do this stamping on a piece of watercolor paper and watercolor it using your re-inkers or your watercolor pencils, but you don't usually want to add water, or at least not too much water, to something that's just regular cardstock. Well, I don't know. I don't know why, but I'm shying away from color, which is silly, right? Because they're birthday presents, and if you have a birthday party, your guests do not consult each other ahead of time about what color wrapping paper they're using, right? So that I keep forgetting to turn off on Wednesday nights. So we'll use a little Granny Apple Green. these things that overlap, sometimes it's really hard to tell, like with flowers. Sometimes I have the hardest time figuring out what's the flower and what's the leaf. So you do kind of have to look at it a little carefully. Don't make yourself crazy. And then I'll go back to the yellow. Actually, I'll do the bigger box in yellow. Well, I'm kind of glad that I just did 2 cards because it's taking longer than I thought. Plus, I really wanted to show you the other things that I did with the Keeping Tabs punch and stamp set. I think, to be honest with you, that someone who isn't even necessarily a stamper or a card maker could probably find a lot to do with that stamp set that they would enjoy. That's what I think. And then, I don't know. What is this color? Oh, you know what? I didn't use Night of Navy. I used Light and Dark Blueberry Bushel. That's what I used. Okay. All right, then how about, I think this is Summer Splash, and let's go with Light Summer Splash. It's such a fun color. I don't even really know exactly how to describe it. Some people say it looks a little turquoise to them. I'm not sure if it does to me or not, but then again, I'm not sure what it does look like. I just know that it's pretty and I like it. And next year, those colors will be going away. Or is it next year already? No, they're good till, well, yeah, till 2026, which is next year. Because they were 2024, 2026 colors, and then we'll get 5 new in colors. There we go. That looks good to me. Okay, so now, theoretically, because I left a little space there, we should be good. So a little glue on the tab, but we also need glue on the back. All right, and then we should be able to slip that right in there. Yeah, and because you have the tab, you don't lose too much of this burying it under there. And that's kind of the idea. Very ingenious. Like I said, I don't think I would have thought of it until it was way too late. Way too late. And now we can put this on here. All right, and I think the sentiment, at this point, it's very obvious that's going to have to go on the inside, which is fine too. Not every card has to have a sentiment smack on the front of the card. Maybe it's a little bit more intriguing that way. You open it up not sure what it is. Although I suppose the gifts are kind of a dead giveaway that it might be a birthday, but you just never know. Alright, so I'm going to have that popping up a little bit, so we will lose a touch of those presents, but not too much. Because you do want to really kind of see that as the top of the wagon. The not handlebars, the rails, you know, that keep the kids from falling out. Or in our case, keep grandma from falling out. Alright, so now, which direction does this card go in? This way. Yeah, ask yourself sometimes which direction your card is going in, because if you forget, you're in deep doo-doo. Alright, so again, this one says sending loads of happiness, and that's a fun sentiment. And let's see. Not going to put it smack in the middle. Doesn't have to be there. Oh, beautiful. I love that. Look at the mixture of the fonts. This is almost kind of a cross between print and cursive, and then this is all print with upper cap letters, uppercase letters. Alright, so let's get this on the inside. Is that the right size? Yes, it is. Okay. I've gotten something going on with my thumb these days, and so when I squeeze the glue bottle, my thumb cracks. It doesn't hurt or anything, it just makes a little popping noise. I'm sure that means something, and I'm sure it's not good, but... Now, some people don't like it if you can see their sentiment through this, so that would have been a good case possibly for making the sentiment smack in the middle, but in this case I think it's going to get covered up and it's going to be just fine only gluing it on here. But I want this to come right to the end and no further. And so I'm going to make a pencil mark there. And let's see, do I have my little, whatchamacallit here? Or just the big one? Okay, got the little one. And I'm just going to cut it just a tiny, tiny bit to the left of the line. Just hoping that by doing that I've got it right. So we're going to have that over there, and that is perfect, okay? So when making a card like this, or really anytime you're gluing anything a little bit different, keep in mind, and my trick is to put my thumb there, that where you want the glue is not where your thumb is. So, and then I'll check it again, but what I'll do is I'll only go so far here, I won't even go far enough. And then I'll put a little line of glue here, where I think I'm going to need it, and that should cover me. And what I want to do is make sure that I do cover the sentiment so it's not sort of half hanging out of there. And then I'm just going to do this to get that where I want it. I'm double checking there's no glue sticking out there, so I'm not gluing my card shut, and we are done. Alright, so yeah, that took longer than I thought. I don't know, I have a hard time sticking to an hour. I do. But I watched a video the other night by somebody else who makes cards 2.5 hours, and most of that time was just spent talking and not making anything. Just saying. Alright, so there we go. I really like them both. They're fun. This is really pretty, and I can picture this in a whole array of colors. Like you could make the exact same card, but make it in different colors. You know, I could see that, whether you want to choose blues or purples. Yeah, I could see that for sure. And alrighty, so yeah, that's just so pretty. I'm really loving that one, but I like this one too. So everybody have a very good weekend. Don't forget, you've got until the 15th to place an order and get your immediate rewards. With the new program, you will get rewards, but they won't be immediate. They won't be applied until your next order, okay? And I think that's all I needed to tell you. If not, I'll make an announcement of some kind tomorrow. All right, and just another quick check of the host code right there, so that you've got it if you